You won't walk away alive, Captain, but he will. Captain America, Brave New World.
Yeah, really, really happy to meet you. I've recognized your face in a lot of projects over the years, so it's really cool to meet you. Happy to talk about Captain America and other things with your career. But yeah, I wanted to start there, given Captain America has just released, #1 movie in the world. Congratulations for being a part of that. Do you mind going into a little bit about how you became involved in that project?
Sure. Um, I got an audition for the film, and because it was Marvel, they're pretty tight-lipped about things, so I didn't know what the project was. All I knew was a Marvel project, and I didn't know much about the character. I knew he's a Navy SEAL, and that was about it. The scene that they gave me to do as an audition was a made-up scene, so I was kind of in the dark, and it wasn't until the night before, I booked the job,
Hmm.
and they don't send you the script. Every time I worked, I'd get the scenes I was working on the night before we'd filmed them.
Hmm.
So it was literally the night before where I realized, oh, this is Captain America. You know what I mean? Like I had no
Oh
idea.
wow, the night before.
Yeah. And I originally booked the job, and it was just a 1-day gig, and I was going to show up and do my scene. And I got very fortunate, and they just kept calling me back again and again to do more and more scenes. And it kind of grew from that initial thing. But yeah, it was just the process was very similar to any other project I ever booked. It was just very, very secretive about everything that was involved in it.
Yeah, yeah, and that definitely resonates with I think a lot of actors who've been involved in Marvel, kind of keeping tight lips. You alluded to I guess working on Captain America compared to other projects. You've been on television shows like Walking Dead, Swamp Thing, but then also movies like American Made, Logan Lucky. How did your work on something as big scale or large scale, I guess, as Captain America compared to your work on previous films and television?
It's interesting because what we do as actors is exactly the same, whether it's a $100 student film or a $100 million, big budget film. Everyone else's job's different, right? Like the crew, the director, the producers on these huge budget projects, their job's intense, but my job is just to show up, be truthful, and connect with the other characters in the scene and try to bring this character to life.
Mm.
The little boy in me who grew up loving Marvel comics and loving Captain America comics, and I've been a huge fan of the MCU since the beginning. There was definitely those moments I had to stop and like kind of pinch myself and go, "Wow, dude, you're on a you're on a Marvel film," But as soon as the camera, started rolling and the director said action, to me it was exactly the same as in the project. And I got very fortunate in that the actors that I work with, it was Anthony Mackie, you know, Tim Blake Nelson, Carl Lumbly, they were just so kind and so welcoming. I tell folks all the time, Anthony Mackie is the most down to earth, funniest A-list actor I've ever worked with in my life. He just kept me laughing constantly every day I was on set with him.
You kind of read my mind because you two have like a great banter in the movie, and I actually saw a trailer for a TV spot for the film recently, and you had a line, your line at the end of like, save some for me, Cap, was at the end, and I think that like that moment just captures your chemistry so well. Yeah, what was it like filming with like the likes of Anthony Mackie and Tim Blake Nelson? I mean, your character was killed by Tim Blake Nelson's the leader, who is this massive character in the comic book. So that must be pretty cool.
Yeah. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't
Yeah,
seen the
spoiler alert. Yeah.
well, like I said, Anthony, I met him and the very first day we just hit it off. I mean, the guy was so kind. I remember we started talking about cigars, like I'm a huge cigar fan. And later in the day, he comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, this is my favorite cigar. Check it out. Let me know what you think." And I was like, wow,
Oh,
this
that's
guy
so kind.
on the call sheet. I'm this working class actor. Uh, the hardest thing about working with Anthony is the fact that I would be laughing so hard between takes. And obviously, some of the scenes are pretty serious. It was just trying to like stop laughing and get focused, for the next action. Um, but the guy could not have been more kind and warm. And you could see his energy he brought to set. he was just friendly to everybody. Like he was just like one of the guys, one of,
Mm,
the way he joked and laughed with the crew. It was very refreshing to watch. Tim Blake Nelson, I mean, I've been a fan of him for years, and obviously the scene we have is pretty intense.
you're right.
Generally with those kind of situations, I didn't chat with him a lot, but we're in this, we're kind of hanging out on set, but we didn't do a lot of chatting just because it was such an intense scene. But after we wrapped, then it was like, hey man, great work with you. That was fun. I'd actually done a really fun scene with Carl Lumbly that didn't make the film. And I always tell new actors, until you have scenes cut, you're not a real actor, that's just part of the process. But that dude, I had been a fan of since I was a little kid. I remember him from Mantis, this TV show,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I just loved him. And he's one of those guys you can tell is just so sensitive. He has just like great actor's heart, and he's
Mm,
a dude in real life, but just a sweetheart. So yeah, my experience was everybody was so welcoming on that set, and the director, Julius Ono, was just kind, like a phenomenal director who, he gave these very precise notes. So sometimes you work on a film, you're kind of like, I call it like you're like floating in the wind a little bit. You don't really know
mm,
what exactly they're going for. I think some directors look at actors almost like, oh, that's a light. That's just a piece of equipment, and they just kind
mm.
of go through it. That wasn't Julius. Like he really connected with the actors. He understood the language of actors. But the producers were nice. The crew that they put together, the whole team was just fun. And I have fun on almost every project I work on, but every once in a while you get on one, you're like, well, at least I'm getting paid, right? But that was not the case with Marvel. It was fun from beginning to end.
No, that's incredible. And I think a lot of that ends up shining through as a viewer, right? Like we wouldn't necessarily know that, but you can see that. You can see that there's that warmth there. And yeah, I agree. Carl Lumbly, Tim Blake Nelson are just such amazing actors. So that's amazing that you were able to work so closely with them. And yeah, it would be really cool to maybe see that deleted scene on the Blu-ray down the line.
That'd be
Um,
fun because I had fun in the scene. So.
Well, speaking of, I know a lot of a lot has been made of this movie in particular having additional photography and reshoots and things like that. And you alluded to a little bit of how you were originally brought on for one day of shooting and then brought on for additional days. Do you mind shedding some light on like what was initially your role in the film and how did that kind of expand over time?
Yeah, well, first of all, I've seen all the stuff about the reshoots. That is pretty normal. I've worked on a lot of big budget films, and they all have reshoots. That's part of the
Right.
process. So there was nothing surprising to me at all about it. And I'd see the news stories and the kind of the rumor mills on YouTube, and I was like, well, that's just not true. Like I was there. The character, it was the same character. They just kind of deepened the character. You know what I mean? Like it.
Mm,
Um, they just added to his relationship to Sam Wilson.
got it.
And so but the basic concept, which he's a Navy SEAL who's an old friend of Captain America, that was pretty much in place from the very beginning. They just added some stuff, I'm sure to, again, which often happens in these films.
Mhm. Got it. Yeah, 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 yeah. I do think that, one little like grain of truth, right, and additional photography ends up getting blown out of proportion. I think what you're saying aligns with a lot of the reports we've seen since the film released, where other people working on the film have kind of dispelled those rumors. So, yeah, no, that's really encouraging to hear. I wanted to ask a little bit more broadly beyond Captain America. So, you also have this career behind the scenes, having recently worked on A Savannah Haunting as the director and writer. Did you learn anything about the behind the scenes filmmaking process from Captain America: Brave New World that you think you'll apply to your next directorial effort?
Yeah, I think mostly what I got was affirmation of things, right? Like the idea that treating people with respect and treating people
Mm,
with kindness matters so much more than the paycheck, right? Like really, and that's what, Savannah Haunting, we shot that in August of 2020 at the height of the COVID protocols. We were one of the first 10 films in the country to implement the COVID protocols, which were intense. And it was a low budget movie, it wasn't a lot of money. But what my team and I made sure we did was make sure that every single crew member and every single actor understood that we appreciated them being there because they could be somewhere else, right? They could be working on
mm,
a bigger budget project. And one of the things that really touches me is some of the crew members who, I mean, one of the crew members worked on Captain America. And he'll reach out to me like every other month saying, hey, when's your next project? I want to work on it, right? But I saw the same thing on Captain America, that even though they have all this money and they have like obviously a huge team, I saw them go out of their way to be welcoming and warm
Mm,
every time I was on set. You know, Julius and the producers would always come up and introduce themselves, say hi, just it just really felt like they cultivate a sense of family. And
mm,
that's something that I've always loved as a filmmaker, is this idea that we're all working together to make a great project. And of course, my budgets are probably the coffee budget of a Marvel film. You know what I mean? Like very different as far as how much money is available to spend. But like I said, at the core of it, it's just getting a group of people together who all are working towards the same vision and
mm.
hopefully having a lot of fun while they're doing it and feeling appreciated for the job that they do.
I have to say it's so for lack of a better term, like just frankly cool to see an actor like yourself who's involved in so many projects and big scale projects like this um emphasize like the importance of that of warmth and of kindness, because I think especially nowadays those attributes get lost, right? And work is work, right? And divide. So I think that's incredible, and I'm sure your colleagues are, on your subsequent films are going to be very grateful for that.
Well,
Um,
I learned years ago, I worked on a movie called American Made with Tom Cruise. And I mean, Cruise is one of the few movie stars left, right? I mean, there's not a lot of true movie stars in
sure.
our industry anymore. He is one. But I saw this guy just be kind to everyone, from extras to craft services to makeup artists, people that many times are kind of overlooked in the process, like
Mm,
aren't, they appreciate the job they do, but they aren't really going out of their way to be really kind. And I saw him acknowledge them. And I remember once we were shooting down in South America, and this is one of my favorite stories about Tom Cruise. Uh, we're on a airfield in the middle of the jungle. It starts raining, so we all get under like little tents, and it just happens to be me and Cruise and a local Colombian makeup artist. And this was the biggest project she had ever worked on, right? And we're standing there, and Cruz looks over his shoulder and sees her and says, Maria, I checked out your website last night. Your work looks amazing. And she lit up like someone had written her a check for $1 million, right?
oh
Because
my
this,
God.
this movie star
Right.
took the time to look at her personal website, at her portfolio, and then compliment her on it, right? And I
Wow.
saw him do that over and over and over. And I realized at that point, there's a reason that he's still a movie star, right? There's a lot of people kind of came up with him in the 80s. They're not the same level anymore. And I think it's because people want to work with him, and he definitely brought that energy of let's make a great film
Mhm.
versus let me be the spotlight. You know what I mean? Like
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I saw what happens when someone at that caliber brings kindness and that welcoming energy. So I'm like, I'm going to adopt that, because I've also worked with some folks, not very often, who do not have that energy, right? And they're not fun to work with, and the crew
Mm.
doesn't have fun with them. And for me, it's like I want to go home every night, and whether I'm an actor or a filmmaker, and make sure, I want to leave knowing that everyone I interacted with had a good impression. They walk away going, that's someone I want to work with again. And
Yeah.
being a jerk does not cause people to feel that way. So.
Yeah. No, I think that's an incredible lesson, not only for the world of filmmaking, frankly, but just in general. I think, kind of leave the people around you feeling good and feeling good to be in your presence. Speaking of kind of, in the future, I wanted to ask if there's any projects you have coming up on the horizon that you're particularly excited about for fans to get a hold of.
Sure. As an actor, I've got a couple projects coming out. I'm going to be in the new show called Ballard. It's a spinoff of Bosch on Amazon Prime, and I think that's going to be coming out later this year. I did a film last year that should be coming out this year called Final Hour, and it's this really powerful movie where I play a man on death row, and it's literally hours before he's supposed to be put to death, and a priest shows up to give him his last rites, and we learn that the priest has a connection to the family that my character had murdered. So it plays out almost like a two-person play. I mean, it could have been
Mm,
very simple. Much of the movie takes place in the jail cell between my character and this priest. It'll be a powerful one. And then as a filmmaker, I'm actually, the next project we're looking to do is a TV show that I've been developing for a long time. It's a grounded comedy about life in Southern Trailer Park. So I'm really excited about working on
Oh,
that.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
What a variety there across those three projects. So yeah, no, thank you so much for speaking with me today. Again, I've really enjoyed your work, and it was great to see you on this massive IMAX screen and playing a role in such a huge film. So really looking forward to seeing your future work. And yeah, thank you for being so kind. I really love the message that you're sending out to people beyond the film industry, that being warm and being kind is so important. So thank you so much for your time.